Listeners be advised. The Soliloquy podcast discuss matters related to the human experience and many that are sexual in nature. Due to this, some conversations may surround triggering topics such as sexual violence, self harm, abuse, and much more. Please be advised a list of crisis and psychological resources will be available in the show notes of this episode. With that said, let's get started with the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention please as we go through the following safety instructions.
In the event that there is a loss of cabin pressure, oxygen mask will drop from the overhead. Place the mask over your nose and mouth. Breathe normally as oxygen is flowing even if the mask is not inflated. Be sure to adjust your own mask before helping others.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Soliloquy podcast, where we step out and speak on sexuality. This is your favorite host, Vernon T. Scott, also known as Slaytor Jackson, and for you freaky motherfuckers out there, Sebastian Zaddems. Y'all, I've been feeling a little bit depressed. And whenever I'm depressed, I make sure I have my meeting with my therapist so we could talk about what's going on in my life, what is causing this depression, well, I'm not on any meds at the moment, but I've been thinking about trying meds once more. I stopped at one point because they were not doing what they needed to do, but I've been fine without those. And, life is great, life is good. But, sometimes you just need to talk to your therapist to get everything out that's been bothering you, to talk about some of your past traumas, some recent traumas, or anything like that, because it's helpful. Look, we've been going through a pandemic since 2020, well, 2019 to be real, and it's been weighing on a lot of our mental health. And sometimes you just need to get some help. And to talk about what it's like to get mental health care, or just to talk about mental health and relationships, I am joined with Nicole. How are you doing today?
Hey, I'm great. How are you doing? And I
I'm
hate
do-
to hear that you're depressed, friend, but we're gonna get through it.
no, I'm doing well, honestly. Half the time I don't know if I'm depressed or tired because that's just the way my brain works most of the
Hmm.
time. But I will say overall, I'm doing great. Just taking things a day at a time. I'm acknowledging my hurt feelings whenever they occur. I acknowledge my depression. I make sure I take time to rest and do all the things that I need to do to cope with, life. But
Hmm.
overall, I'm good. Overall, I'm good, which is a good thing. But we're talking about mental health and relationships. So before we get into that nitty gritty, do you mind letting everybody know who exactly you are?
Of course. So if you haven't heard me on any of the previous, I don't know how many episodes at this point, I've been on a few. If you don't know me from the previous episodes, my name is Nicole Waldron, the Melanated Vixen. I am a sex coach and educator. My primary focus is on the Black and Brown communities, but of course, I'm here to teach any and everybody who is willing to learn. So, if anything, you probably see me on Instagram. My Instagram is at melanated_vixen, or on TikTok and Facebook at melanated vixen. But yeah, that is who I am.
Awesome. Well, to get into this conversation, one of the things we talked about way back then is just the concept of us coming into our sexuality and who we are today. And like we talked about the processes and all that other great stuff. How did you come into your own sexuality, like from where you were at a younger age to where you are today?
Um, well, before I take us down a crazy rabbit hole, do you want to be more specific about that question? Because that can go a lot of different ways.
Look, take us down the rabbit hole. Call me
No,
Alice, bitch.
no, we
I'm
don't have
here.
time. No, no, we're not gonna be Alice and the White Rabbit today because
Oh, that
you
sounds
only have
racist.
about. Well, I mean, the White Rabbit was who Alice was following, right? Anyway, I'm not taking us down to Underland. If y'all know the reference, you get it. But
Yes,
I'm not
yes.
gonna take us to Underland because you have a 1 hour show, sir, and
You're
we'll
right.
be here all day.
Hmm.
Um, well, I think overall there was there was a lot of looking at the representation around me, looking at what people were doing during these different ages, my different ages throughout this entire journey of my sexual self, and what were people doing at that time. Like growing up in the, without telling my age too much, growing up in the 90s, early 2000s, um, what were people doing at that time? What things were considered taboo? What being this trying to never be labeled as a hoe. So I wouldn't
Mm,
do a lot of shit and just like being this good girl or this good person for the longest time. And then getting more into like, you know what, I kind of want to try this. I kind of want to do this. And just kind of being a little hush hush about it. And of course, I was never one to, put myself out there, let a lot of people know what I'm doing. So I only discuss certain things with the people I trusted anyway.
mhm,
But even with that, feeling like I was comfortable in that space, I'm like, oh, I'm just, I like things. I'm a little kinky, blah, blah, blah. And just going off of that for a long time before, like, as I got older into my 30s and stuff, understand, realizing that I still was not sexually free at all. I
mhm,
still didn't know who my sexual self was because I didn't allow myself to explore and used a lot of different excuses as to why I have not done certain things um, or tried to explore or been with people or whatever, like the judgments or because people didn't find me attractive or, every time I try something, like it doesn't work out, blah, blah. A lot of excuses. I mean, some of it was valid, but more so excuses. There was really no reason for it. And then realizing that like I was holding myself back in a lot of ways, but also because I didn't see a lot of different things out there that I knew was available to me or that people that looked like me was even interested in and did, like it held me back a lot. So once I started figuring that out, I was just like, you know what? No, I actually like this. I like this. I want to try this. I'm attracted to this, whatever. So, that journey took a while. It took, pretty much my entire sexual life and still going. There's still other
mm,
things that I have not explored that I don't know if I like or not, but it's on my little sexual bucket list. Knowing that I should even create one was something that I didn't realize until I started going through sex coaching and through my program. So, it's been a long ride, but where I am now, I'm definitely happier that I'm with where I am than where I was even like 2 years ago. I thought I was good. I thought, oh yeah, I like these things. And, if I don't do those things, that makes me this, or it's okay. And not realizing that, no, it's not okay because I'm not being my true self, not being
mm.
happy.
I get that. I know, like for myself, I think a lot of it came stem from me asking the question why a lot.
Mm,
Because there's all the messaging saying that, oh, you shouldn't do this, boy shouldn't do that, girl shouldn't do that, and then the double standard as it related to being a hoe. That thing in itself just put me into a spiral of trying to figure out what the fuck does this mean? Like this doesn't make
mhm.
sense. How one party can do this and the other party can't, and it's supposed to be like well it's not the math does not add up and I was great at math as a young
Yep.
adult so it's like we're going to figure this out but like asking myself what makes this particular thing a sin, what makes this particular thing bad, and all you can say because the Bible says so, and I'm just like but what makes the Bible correct? And I'm sorry for those people who may be religious. This is just what my mindset was telling me when I was a lot younger because a lot of the shit that I was being told was not adding up. So that made me want to do a little bit more deeper digging to understand exactly what these things means, what sexuality is, what being queer means, being gay, bi, all this other stuff. Because I recognize as a young age, like, oh, I find these young ladies cute, but I also find these guys cute. Uh, I don't know what's going on here. Like then I remember listening to certain things when I was young. Like I remember hearing the word tossing salad, and I was like, "What the fuck is that? What does that mean? That's salad? What? Like what? Why is this a joke? Why is these adults laughing about it?" And then I learned exactly what that is, which is amazing that we there's this period of time where people just like, oh, I don't eat ass and all this other shit. That's disgusting, blah, 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 blah. But as a child, we're talking about, there's jokes literally about people eating other people's asses. Because that's what it is. If you did not know what tossing someone's salad is, bitch, you rimming somebody, you were tearing that ass up with your tongue, okay? Do you? And that's why there was always a gay joke, which I didn't get either.
But, and now that I think about it, just as a quick sidebar, why was someone's booty hole compared to salad?
Well, because it gets all kinds of flavoring. Do you not put the white sauce on your salad?
You know what? Don't do that. I was like, where did we get that? Where did we even get that from? How did we, where did this correlation really come from? But not the white sauce on the salad. I'm more of a balsamic vinaigrette fan myself.
Oh, you fancy. Oh, you bourgeois. Excuse me. Oh, bourgeois. I support though.
But I get what you're saying. But I was just like, I don't understand. Like obviously, funny for a while or whatever. But the more I thought about it, like you said, asking those why questions. That was one of my why questions. I was like, so why is it called salad? Like, I don't understand. Like, why do we liken it to that in tossing salad? And we eat salads with a fork and not our whole face. I mean, I don't know about y'all.
Like the thing that really got me is like most definitely when it came to heterosexual men and how they express themselves in engaging in sex with women. And I was like, why are y'all saying that y'all don't eat pussy? That doesn't make sense to me. Like what about that makes you less of a man because you're pleasing a woman, because you're choosing to like engage with her that way sexually? That does not, it's not computing. Like, are you not straight? Is that not what straight people do? I will assume if I'm heterosexual that's what I would do. I knew like me within my bisexuality that's something I'm open to doing. Is eating vag gay? Like what?
right. And thinking about back to like the different taboos of the 80s, from our era, beginning of our era, and previous to that. Why were these things considered taboo when it all had to do with pleasing, other than the whole patriarchal outlook on everything, right? But why was that right? But why was that something that was considered taboo? You know what I mean? Like, it's not like this shit wasn't done even previous to when it became a taboo thing. Like, things like that were being done a long time ago, just maybe not in America, but other places for sure. So why was it, and then for it to come out of that taboo stage, like giving head, whether it was male, whether it was fellatio or cunnilingus, both of them being taboo, obviously cunnilingus being the longer taboo of the two. But, and of course, back to that whole, to be a good, clean, wholesome person, which I think fell more so under the religious sect of that. But just being clean and wholesome, like that, doing those kinds of things had nothing to do with procreation, which is exactly right. It's about pleasure. Like,
the Holiloquy podcast focuses on the variability of sexual expression. When it comes to sexual expression, we often depend on pornography to illustrate how one must perform sexually. For those who have not learned this by now, the stuff you see in porn is not real. Pornography provides a singular perspective of sexual expression that is not often the reality we see during our own sexual encounters. The Holiloquy podcast is a conversation that takes you outside of the compressed box of what many know about sex. Some of the topics we discuss includes kinks, condom usage, status disclosure, and past sexual experiences. The Soliloquy podcast steps out on sexual norms and recognizes that the norm is not the only normal. Subscribe today and join the conversation.
Which I think fell more so in under the religious sect of that. But just being clean and wholesome, like that, doing those kinds of things had nothing to do with procreation, which is exactly right. It's about pleasure, like pleasure being about, or sex being about pleasure as much as it is about procreation was the other thing. So yeah, things like tossing salads and rimming and all these different things, whether it was to a male or female, all of these things being taboo, and then now getting to the place that we are now where a lot of things are more commonplace, thank goodness. But why, but I always wondered why was that such a taboo thing if the whole thing was just about pleasure? And I'm sure there's plenty of things that we can say about it, but I think that was a part of a lot of people's journeys for a long time, like anyone between the ages that, well, do I even want to say 22 at this point? Because here we are in 2023. So maybe 22 at the youngest, but from like 22 to, 50 at this point, that was some shit that you didn't do. Giving fellatio, okay, well, maybe when you're in a committed relationship or, when you're married or something like that, then yeah, maybe a little bit more. And same thing, cunnilingus, same thing. But once you got to a certain age, at least for me, like, I remember the first time someone even asked me to give them head, and I wasn't sure what to do. I wasn't sure what my answer was, because at first, your first reaction is you should be appalled, right? Like, oh my God, how can you ask me that? What kind of girl do you think I am?
I'm not a whore.
I'm not, right. Do I detect a whore? No, bitch, you don't, because I'm not.
Okay, Jamie.
but like that, those were the things that I thought at the time, and I think it was maybe after my first year of college when someone approached me that way. But he was, to be honest, he was respectful about it. There was no degradation about it or anything like that. And he was just like, this is what I want to do. And if I remember right, he also wanted to reciprocate. So, but I struggled. I remember that being like one of the first things that I struggled with was, what do I do here? Because according to society and what I've been taught up to this point, that's not something that I should do because I'm not a hoe. So why would I be doing something like that? And never mind the fact that who the fuck else is gonna know but me and him unless one of us tells somebody else. So it was just the whole, I don't want to be labeled that way. I don't want people to judge me. I don't want people to know that because of what it denoted at that time. But to be perfectly honest, though, there was also the other side of me that was just kind of like, well, maybe I should do it because I want to know what that shit is like. I want to know what that's like. But I didn't, I stayed in my little good girl box and was like, no, I'm not going to do that because that's not something I do, blah, blah. Like, I didn't cuss him out or anything like that. I just told him no because I don't do that. And that was just it. Lo and behold, a few years later, I did do that. So,
Was it with him?
It happened. No, not with him though.
Damn.
It was with somebody. It was with somebody else. Trust, during that time, I was just like, I wonder if I still got this nigga number. Let me call him back and be like, so I do that now, and I want to try this shit with you. But and I did think about it for a bit, but I just never did because once again, more mental conflicts during that time. But those were things that we continued to struggle with. Like, do I want someone to do that to me? Like, am I deserving of it? Was a whole nother thing too. Like there were so many different just things that made us feel, or at least me anyway, but made us feel like, should we be doing this? And there need to be a like a real specific justification for doing that. That it took a lot of people, or at least in my generation, took a lot of us a while to do it. Of course, there were plenty of people who were just like, fuck it, I'm gonna do it anyway. But those of us who struggled with like that image and that judgment but not truly understanding that no one's going to judge you unless they actually know, unless someone tells them what you were doing. And even if they
Mhm.
do judge you, that's their problem, not yours. I wasn't living in that space for a long time.
Yeah,
So,
and I'm glad that we're here because the next thing we were going to talk about was the mental blocks that we've overcame to be a lot more sexual free. But I do want to go back and say that I feel like respectability has a lot to do with that, deal with that, because when
mhm,
I think about conversation I've had with like older people as of late, and them detailing the shit that they used to do, like I mean like people that's in their 60s right now, and I'm just like,
mhm,
I thought that this was like taboo in your age. Like what the fuck
mhm,
happened, that like what literally happened to make, at
mhm,
least with when I was growing up, this to be a problem. But they're talking about, oh yeah, we used to like have all these kind of fuck parties, eating
mhm,
ass and
orgies and
pussies,
shit.
all this other shit.
Mhm,
And I'm just like, y'all had a motherfucking ball back then. Like bring
mhm,
me to the 60s, like for real. Bring me to the 70s. And I think in addition to respectability, I know the AIDS crisis has something to do with a lot more people being a lot more reserved in how they express
mhm,
themselves sexually. And because of that shared trauma of knowing that fear is out there, it made people,
mhm,
I feel as though it made people a lot more repressive in how they wanted to engage with other people, so that they made a lot of sexual acts taboo, because now this is associated with gay people. I
mhm.
wasn't out there eating the ass. So that's just the gays that do that. So,
Yeah.
bringing these certain
Mhm,
things, sucking dick is another one of those. Oh,
mhm,
that's how most queer people have to engage with themselves. They're sucking dicks. That's how AIDS is being spread anyway. So I don't suck dick. I don't
mhm,
do that. I can't, like,
mhm.
to me, I feel like that's where a lot of that train of thought came from, and it was
And
pushed
that's
onto like
possible.
our parents, and it became a cultural and societal norm now to
Mhm,
move away from those kind of acts. And now we're here where we are, and people just now becoming comfortable with all these other sexual expressions once more, and being a lot more sexually liberated from having to deal with all of that, because at least that's my perspective on that.
I feel like no, I agree with you there too, and I feel like some of that was pushed to the church as well. Especially with the
Hmm.
whole AIDS crisis. Like, okay, hey, what's the biggest way that we can get this information out here and get people to stop doing, stop taking part in this behavior? Like just like you said, people were in the '60s or people of the '60s and '70s, having orgies, having, like that was a free love era. Free
Hmm.
love. People were doing all kind of shit. Oh, hey, I traveled to this place or this country or this part of the world where they were doing these different things and it looked amazing, or I got to take part. Let me bring that shit home and show you guys how um like how much fun we can be having, and how we can do sexual relations differently. Like this shit was so enjoyable, this shit was so pleasurable. Let's get a bunch of us over, have a few cocktails, and turn on the red light or whatever the case is, and have your fun. And so, people were doing, there was a lot of that during the '60s and '70s. That was really part of like free love and free expression. But like you said, the surgeons of um of AIDS and them, targeting the queer communities and saying pretty much like that's where that shit started, and that's where people started to, well, one, they're closed-minded thinking, but that's where they started to target and say, oh, okay, well, if you do that, you must be a part of this community or whatever the case is.
Hmm.
Meanwhile, some of these same people or people that they knew were part of the free love, not more than a decade prior to that, being a part of these orgies and parties and all this other kind of stuff, taking quaaludes and all kind of shit, and and having sex with any and everybody, sharing partners and all of that, and giving, sucking dick, eating pussy, all kind of shit. So now all of a sudden they pushed it to, don't do that. And we've got the generations that we've got now, my generation and older and younger, that look at things real different. And now there's the resurgence again, but there's more education on it, thank goodness. But it's just, it's created a lot of blocks for a lot of people, because things that you may naturally feel like, oh, I want to try this or experiment or whatever. Now we have to go through that. But I don't want to be looked at a certain way. I don't want to be judged a
Mhm.
certain way. And also not having the information to go with it. Like this is how you do this, or this is how you do this safely. Now that we know that there are there are actual consequences out here. There are, not even STDs anymore, STIs. Like shit, me growing up, it was STDs and AIDS. Now it's AIDS, STIs, HPV, and God knows what else. So,
Mhm.
so now it's like, okay, now that we can get away from don't do this, this is bad. Now it's more of a, if you're going to do this, you should do it safely. Let me tell you what safely looks like.
Mm.
Let me tell you what the different bounds are. Let me show you that, this is how you use a condom. You would think by now that everybody know how to do that, but unfortunately they
Nope.
don't. Right?
No.
Now they've got more, more types of condoms, more, besides the whole latex free and all this other kind of stuff. Black owned condoms, B condoms, which I think are amazing. But the more education behind, like, if you're going to do this, these are your options for doing this more safely. So you don't have to miss out, or so you can explore, feel freer to
Mhm.
explore these different things and see if it's for you. Or if you like engaging, you could do this in a safer way. So
Mhm.
yeah, the mental blocks though, I would be really, I'd be real interested to know about people in the younger, in the generation after mine, or who came up years after I did, like what their mental blocks are now. Is
Mhm.
it more societal pressure? Is it more of, I don't know who I am and I don't know where to start with trying to figure out who my sexual self is? Or are there more people who feel like they know who they are sexually now because of more information being out here, because of less judgment?
Yeah, that's a good question. And before I go into that, I did want to piggyback off something a little bit earlier, like when you were talking about, like, because I'm glad I asked the question if you ever got the chance to, like, meet up with that dude essentially. And I know, like, there was some things that I had with my own personal mental blocks where like I wanted to avoid fat shame as much as possible because of
Mhm.
the society we live in. And there was a time when you don't know who's really queer, who's not queer, who's just playing games with you, who's just trying to get your news.
Mhm.
And now, well, that's still today a thing, but you don't know exactly who all these people are. And I was always very mindful of how I shared my nude body and where and when. And I remember there was this dude who actually reached out to me through a group me that we were in. He sent me a direct message and we were talking, just having, talking to each other. And I didn't think of it as being anything sexual. And then out of nowhere, he asked me for a nude, and I was like, "You got to be joking! I don't know where this came from. I don't like. We just start having conversations. I didn't know that you were someone that's gay. I didn't know anything
Mhm.
about you. This just literally came out of nowhere. I wish I would have
Wow.
known that he really was like attracted to me at the time, but I
Mhm.
denied sending him nudes,
Mhm.
and because of that." I don't know what happened. Every now and again, I will just converse with him or something like that, but nothing ever went of that. And I wonder, of course, I'm glad I didn't, because look, if sending a nude is something that will make you lose interest from me, I don't need to be with you anyways. But
Exactly.
I often think if I was brave enough to just acknowledge that I found him attractive as well and communicated with him on that level and even articulated, hey, I just don't feel comfortable sending news through this app because one, I don't
Mhm.
know what you'll do with the pictures. Like, fam, you whole state over. So,
Yeah.
like, what's going on here? But like, what could have happened within that relationship? Granted, we're living separate lives now and I'm already over that, so I don't regret that. But sometimes those thoughts come back in terms
Mhm.
of if I felt more confidence in my body in when I was a lot younger, what path would I be on that's a little bit different from where I am today? And would I have had
Mhm.
a lot more self-confidence then, or would I have had sacrificed part of me that, well, essentially my integrity, in order to soothe the gaze of other people, that I lost myself within that,
Mhm.
and will still
Mhm.
be in that process of rediscovering who I am today. Like that's
Mhm.
something that I do think about. Mhm.
That's a good point.
Yeah. What was the other thing I said I was going to come back to?
I forgot now. Because
Damn
I'm
it.
sitting here thinking, because I'm thinking about other things. I'm like, yeah, I thought about this. If then, or if this then that, what would be different? You know.
It's like I wish sometimes I could just like do a record, like like on the Vivo or whatever those things called, to like rewind live TV. Like, can I just
Yeah.
rewind life right quick to get exactly where I was supposed to be going in this?
Right. We should see. This is why I try to write notes while I'm doing these, but it doesn't always work out clearly.
Right, right, right. Oh, I wish I knew exactly what was going on there. I feel like I know it was related to blocks. I do know
Hmm.
that, but I just forgot the direction. If anybody out there and they're yelling at their phone, their car radio, and just like, Vernon, this is what you were supposed to go to.
You
Why
said
are you not
this.
going there? Just send me a comment, and me and Nicole, we can get back onto that topic.
Oh, right, right.
Later.
We'll open up a forum on IG or something, and we'll re-examine the topic. Oh
Exactly.
man, I forgot to.
Damn it. Damn it.
Well,
That's my fault. Usually I keep a mental like nugget right there, be like, okay, Vernon, keep
hmm
this in your head. But I just completely let it go. And I'm sorry about that. Oh, damn.
we'll get to it.
We'll get to it, hopefully.
No.
Um, but were there any other kind of mental blocks that you felt as though that you had to overcome as you like aged and whatever?
Um, I mean, I think my just kind of like you, but overall as a woman, dealing with like physical confidence, which that like there was a waning with that, like sometimes I feel very confident and just completely fine in my body, and other times we just, there would be that questioning, that second guessing and things like that, and having to remind myself. I mean, thankfully I had a lot of male friends growing up and even to this day, um that they, as far as I knew, always kept it completely real with me. They always
Hmm.
reaffirmed me, and like even when I would have my moments, I was just like, no, I look like this, or I'm like this, or if you're saying this about, calling them out on things too, like, damn, if you said that about this, about this person that you just looked at, what do you say about me? Like, and they would always turn around like, no, you're good, you're proportionate, you're this, you're that, and I'm just like, are you saying that because you mean it, or are you saying that because you know you're just trying to make sure that I don't feel terrible? And maybe it's a
Mm.
little bit of both, but I'm gonna go with the first one. Like you meant what you said. But I mean, like going through those moments of and them having to be like, listen, if they weren't interested in you, like they knew what you looked like before you took your clothes off or before they asked you to
Mm.
do so or whatever the case is. So you need to continue to have that confidence and show the man what he's asking for. If that's what you're going to do. Like if you're about to send these nudes or if you're about to, you know, be intimate with this person in that way, they already know what you look like. They just want you to take the clothes off so they can see it for real and stop imagining.
Mm.
So feel, don't feel like as soon as you take your clothes off, they're gonna be like, grossed out and put your fucking clothes back on. Like they already knew what they signed up for
Mm.
when they went this far with you in the first damn place. So having to get through those mental blocks was a thing for a long time. um, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Do I go through it now? Yes, but in a different way, in
Mm.
a much smaller scale, I should say.
Same.
Um, and then also, realizing that some of my blocks came from women in my family, and not that they ever outwardly said anything or try to be shameful or anything like that, but realizing that the women in my family, while small in number, but also very strong women, that was something that they never truly talked about. They might have talked about, oh, I dated this person, or, I was dating this person while I was dating your dad, or whatever, like just small stuff like that, but they never really um, they never talked about themselves as sexual beings.
Mm,
And I don't feel like they ever saw themselves as sexual beings. They were strong in so many other areas of their lives and being the matriarchs and being the head of, the head of the family in so many different ways and being intelligent and all these different things. But that was one of the things that was never taught to myself or my other female cousins in the family. They never told you about how to be, how to tap into your femininity, how, other than dress nice, make sure your hair looks nice or whatever the case is. Don't look sloppy or whatever, like just regular shit like that. But they never talked about how to be feminine, how to be your sexual self, how to explore and be your sexual self if that's what you wanted to do. Only now, as all of us, and I mean the my generation of girls in my family, only now are our mothers and aunts and stuff like that are actually saying anything about like, oh, you know what, that looks nice. Oh, I like that you guys are doing X, Y, and Z and you're being unapologetic. I like that you're doing erotic dance and you're doing this and you're doing that. But no one ever told us how to become sexual beings. So now at this point, now I feel like it's kind of a mission for me to figure out who I am. But
mm,
also for my mom and my aunts and my grandmothers and stuff like that who didn't get a chance to showcase that or maybe didn't feel like they had the room or even comfortable with doing those things. So that's been kind of a block for me because I was like, I don't
mm,
know how to be sensual. I don't know how to be sexual in this way. How do I also not be deemed aggressive, or
mm,
whatever? Like how do I become all of these things? So yeah, there were a lot of those things because I mean, I remember having a sexual experience with somebody and being so in my head that after we were done and them asking if I enjoyed it, I couldn't answer them. And I mean the answer was no, but I didn't want to say that. But it had nothing to do with what they were doing. I was in my
mm,
head the whole time. Am I doing enough here? Should I do this? I mean, to the point they were like, "Are you sure you had a good time?" Because at some point you just kind of stopped moving. It's like,
damn.
I'm sorry, I was in my head, and not realizing like, why am I thinking so much about what I should be looking like or doing or sounding like or whatever? Like, why am I so in my head instead of just enjoying the person that's in front of me?
I get that. I know, like, it's also I'm still working on something similar, like when it comes to body image and whatnot, because I know, like, um, society in general says big people are hideous, ugly people, and we're not sexy.
Hmm.
And on top of that, messaging, just growing up as being a little bit thicker than everybody else, and looking back at myself, I'm like, nigga, you was never fat. Like you were just tall, you were just bulky, and that was it. And you was actually a very adorable person. But like just listening to the messages that's been fed to me and from family members saying you're unhealthy, this is not
Hmm.
okay, you're this
Hmm.
is not attractive and all that, it just started to feed into a negative image of myself. And I, like, luckily, because my therapist said that this was one of the things that probably really helped me with my self-image. But I used to like give myself hugs because I didn't feel
Hmm.
external love from other people. I can at least
Hmm.
do it for myself, and that helped me feel beautiful, that helped me feel great about myself, and it helped me love myself regardless of what everybody else said. But there's a
Hmm.
point where all these messages come into you and you just start to believe them on some level. And
Right.
because of that, even to this day, I'm still trying to unpack myself away from those things, because
Hmm.
I'm still trying to figure out exactly what sexy looks like for me, on me, and embrace that and love on that. And even the understanding that, oh, I have a fat roll showing and I feel uncomfortable about it. And I remember watching this one video of somebody just sitting naturally doing nothing, and they adjust their shirt, and I was like, oh, I do that all the time. He was like, if you empathize or you connect with this image, this video, I'm sorry for all the bullying that you received throughout your life, because you had to hide your flaps just to make sure other people
Mhm.
are comfortable around you. I was like,
Comfortable.
bitch, why are you attacking me? And why is this TikTok doing this like this? And why did you not give me a trigger warning before you did that? Like, what is going
Right.
on?
Right, right. You're
Like
like, yes,
all
I
these.
understand the adjustment. I know exactly what they're doing with that adjustment right there. It's this,
Right,
it's this.
right. You're trying to make sure your
Hmm.
butt crack isn't showing because if it's showing a little bit, somebody's picking on you. Meanwhile, this little hussy
Hmm.
over here got all the ass out,
Not
or
the
this
hussy.
little nigga over here got all his backside out, and you're just like, I'm over here sitting here in just a
Trying
little
to
bit of
not
crack.
look
Look,
right. Trying to not fit into the, fat people are gross stereotype.
exactly.
Same
And
thing.
then
I mean, a lot of the same with, like making sure that you look good, make sure that you don't smell, make sure
that
that you're
part.
not, sweating through your clothes. When I know there's a lot of people who are much thinner, men
Hmm.
specifically, who sweat profusely all the time because that's just their natural body chemistry. Doesn't
Hmm.
have to be nerves. They just do, you know?
Hmm.
So, just to be someone who is plus size that doesn't get a lot of the same kinds of um justifications or the same kinds of, leeway in those ways. It sucks because we all got some shit going on one way or another. So can I just be me? Dang.
Look, and even to this day, still have to have those arguments that, you know what, with me being plus size, I'm still healthy. like,
Yes,
like,
exactly. Like let's talk about that for a second. Because you got people out here that are just like, oh, I can go rounds it up. But meanwhile, someone who is on the heavier side can go longer and stronger than you
mhm.
than you can. Okay, let's
Look,
talk about that for a minute.
I might not be able to run fast or run at all because look, this is a lot of weight. And my ankles just be like, nigga, why you running? You're okay. I tell people all the time I'm allergic to running. And if they ask how
Listen,
am I allergic to running, I break out in sweat. I have heaviness of breath. And it's like that's an allergic reaction to me. And I cannot.
sir,
I
good
cannot.
night.
Am I
Good night.
lying?
Goodbye.
Is that not
Goodbye.
is that not is that not symptoms of an allergic reaction?
Sir, goodbye.
You're not answering my question. Is it not symptoms of an allergic reaction?
That is also symptoms of running, period. That does not correlate.
Nope, nope, nope.
No, it's like I'm
It
sticking to this.
correlates. I'm sticking
I'm sticking to this. I'm allergic.
to
Look at the
running.
signs
I
and
am.
symptoms. Here's the thing: if they gave your ass a Benadryl for the supposed allergy, ain't shit gonna happen to you except you're gonna lay there and fall asleep. That's it.
See, look, it's
It's
doing
not
its
gonna change
job.
none of that.
It's doing its
It's
job. It's doing its job, you know?
no. These two do not correlate. I usually am behind you. I cannot be behind you on this one, sir. Absolutely
But like there's been so many times like even on like the slight shade that I may see on the dating apps and hookup apps where people just like, oh, I want somebody that's fit, and I'm just like, I get what you're trying to say. Just say you're not into big people because
not.
fitness
Yeah.
does not have a specific size. Because look, if you
Hmm.
look at my test results from my doctor, they're just like, damn, nigga, you healthy as hell. Because
Oh, okay.
it is what it is. Like I know this. I've been living this. I understand that. Look, I'm plus size. I got man boobs. I got a fat ass. I'm here. My thighs be thundering. Okay, but it is what it is. At the end of the day, my test results always come back. You're healthy as hell. Great heart
Yeah.
health.
Hmm.
This fat. I still want to lose a little bit of this, but at the end of the day, I'm good. I'm good.
Hmm.
However, shift the conversation to other people. Why you have clogged arteries?
Mm.
You're 120 pounds.
Mm.
You're
Talk
200
about
pounds. You've been in the gym
hmm
and everything, but you still have clogged arteries. There's a problem
right.
here. What's going on?
Your numbers are through the roof. What's happening?
What's happening? Are you okay? Is it the stressed fam? What's going on?
Mm.
Let's talk about it.
Hmm.
Like
Hmm.
health and weight are two completely different things.
Yep.
Can your weight impact your health? Yes, it can.
Absolutely.
Like you have to just sit down, speak with your doctor about your medical needs and understand exactly what's going on with your individual body to understand if you're healthy or not. Just having that blanket statement that, oh, being obese is unhealthy, being this, like I had to have an argument with somebody on Facebook who was telling me how I'm completely unhealthy and was like, well, the research says blah, 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 blah. They go copy and paste something completely out of context, bring it to me, and I asked them, hey, what's the name of the article? And they was like, it's cited in the paper. No, this is citations within the paper that you copied, and you're asking me to look at that to find the original thing. I read statistics. I understand what's going on. Do you not know how many medical things that they've put out there that will combine two impacts of being obese in order to have a larger statistical value to say this is
Mhm.
why this certain
Mhm.
thing is unhealthy. Yeah, they might have 40% of whatever the case is, but do you not know that they combine three or four things just so that they can say it's a larger chance of this, that, and the third?
Right.
But
Hmm.
if you look at
And
them
besides,
individually,
and besides that, yeah, I was gonna say, and besides that though, I wasn't a part of this study because if I was, I'd skew the fucking numbers. Like, because I'm gonna
exactly.
tell you right now, this is what my numbers look like. This is what they've been looking like for the last year, 2 years, whatever the case is. I'm not on
Mhm.
a bunch of medication. I don't have this. I don't have this. I don't have this. But let me ask you, what you got going on? Okay,
Look, and
you know.
then the thing that really made it funny, I came back with at least 5 or 6 articles, summarized the articles based off of what they were talking about, gave him the links to these articles, made sure that they
Of
were open
course,
source because guess what?
of course.
Not everybody have access to the databases that I have databases. Yes, I use Google Scholar to find the peer-reviewed articles to help you out,
Okay,
bitch.
Google
So
Scholar.
come on. You got the information, you got the direct links, and you trying to say I'm still wrong. We are not doing this, bitch.
Right. Oh, first of all, let's go ahead. Let's go ahead and talk about that subtle mention of Google Scholar. Okay, because I don't know about the rest of y'all listeners. How many of y'all knew Google Scholar even existed?
Mm,
And I'm just gonna leave that right there. But anyway, yes, that was perfect. I mean, that's a perfect point, but those are things that, we could be here all day talking about how society looked at people who are bigger and the shit that and the stereotypes that come with that. But I mean, bringing it back around like that, that has been a mental block for me for a long time, for most of my life. And having people like, oh, you're so confident. I'm like, I'm confident today. I'm confident this week.
mm,
We all have terrible days, regardless of
that
what
part.
size you actually are. We all have terrible days where we feel like we look crazy. My mom even did that to me the other day. She's like, "Oh, are you losing weight again?" I was like, "If I lost it, it moved to someplace else on my body, mom. I don't know what to tell you." But like these are the things that continue to be a mental block. But I think overall, though, like as far as our mental health, like just the way that you even opened up today's show about being depressed, like depression having such a huge impact on your sex life. There's a
Mhm.
lot of people who are just like, I have low to no sexual desire. And not because I feel like I look crazy, not because of body image issues, it's just, or even feeling unworthy of having intimacy with somebody else. It's just, I just can't get outside of my mind of
Mm.
whatever it is that is keeping me in this depressed state that I can't do anything. So those kinds of mental blocks and anxiety and panic attacks and just stress overall, although sex would be a great stress reliever, but like the people who can't get out of their minds for those things, like those are the people that I feel for, because I mean, honestly, having sex would release the kinds of endorphins and
Mm.
other wonderful hormones that would help you get through a lot of these moments. But like it becomes so crippling that you can't even think about that. Whether it's, I mean, forget pleasure with someone else, but just self pleasure as well. You can't even get to
Mhm.
that point.
That's true. That's true. Well, on that note, let's go ahead and get into this never have I ever segment, but I'm just going to do a sets question for you and then we'll close
Okay.
out the show. So, you
Okay.
ready?
Yeah.
So, are you interested in rough physical sex that includes impact play? And if yes, how would you have that conversation with your partner?
Okay. So the answer is yes.
Okay.
Start there. Um, I don't know. I'm the kind of person that when I have conversations with people, like, I mean, you and I have conversations all the time, so I think you have a taste for how I do things. Is, a topic will come up or a question or whatever. I'll just pose a question and then allow the conversation to expand on that topic and, viewpoints and opinions and things like that. So I think I'll ask a question, or yeah, I think I'll ask the question about, what are your thoughts on impact play? And if they don't know what it means, educating, or, what do you like, when you're having sex, do you like smacking the person that you're with? Do you like smacking their ass? Do
Mhm.
you like to be smacked? And then get into a whole conversation about that. And so that way we can naturally talk about likes and dislikes, or, you know, things that they want to try, or things that I want to try, or whatever the case is, and just make it a more natural conversation instead of like, hey, before we have sex, let's talk about impact play. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Because that might, not put the person in the right frame of mind. Maybe they're not ready for that kind of conversation yet. So, and just bringing it out there like, hey, we're going to talk about this right now. Instead of like bringing it up and making it a more natural thing, or even watching a movie or talking about something that we might have seen recently, sending something that I saw on Instagram or something like that to spark that conversation so that they can see where my mind was at. And then we can just talk about it and try to create more of a natural conversation about it. And, say, I actually like this, or I've done this before, and I really like X, Y, and Z, and this is why I like it.
I get that. I love that approach too. I know for myself, I'm definitely into some impact play in terms of how we'll bring that up to a partner. Um, I'm pretty direct because like like I will probably, depending on where we are, if we're in the same room or not, I might send a text message like, "Hey, you ever thought about spanking or anything like that? How you feel about it? Let's talk about it," and just send that as a message, and we could just text and talk about it that way. Or if we're in the room together, like I don't mind having these kind of conversations over dinner because I feel
Mm-hmm.
like we might as well. If I'm out in public, like the dude that I was talking about in the last time we
Mm-hmm.
recorded, like this year, but when this airs, last year. Um, so confusing. But like him, we had dinner at one point, and we were talking about sex at the dinner table in the middle of Carrabba's and just having these conversations. I didn't know this, but he pointed out that the couple that was on the table next to us was looking at us the entire time as we like was having the conversation.
They're like, what are they talking about?
We're talking
Are they
about
talking
fucking.
about this over the chicken carbonara? Is that what we're doing right
Bitch,
now?
we're in
Yes,
public. Anything
yes,
happens in public. Like, so,
right.
like, I don't mind doing that. I don't care
Mm-hmm.
to have like making an intimate setting where we having these
Mm-hmm.
conversations. If that's what my partner prefers, of course, I can just get that setting and just like, hey, I have some sex questions that I want to ask you before
Mm-hmm.
we start talking about anything else. How do you feel about spanking me or being spanked? And are you open to like engaging with that with items that I might want to go purchase and or own already? Like
Mm-hmm.
what's your feelings on it? And just know that
Yeah.
this is a safe and open space. You can disagree with it and that's fine. Just don't be like ill, okay? But let's talk
Yeah.
about it. How do you feel about it?
He said, "This don't be like ew." Yeah. And to that point, I do agree. But for me, I think it depends on the person and the situation as well. Because I mean, obviously, if we've already engaged sexually, and then say, okay, so we've been there now. We've done
Mhm.
at least the basic shit. So how do you feel about this? That's usually where I would ask the question more directly and more blatant, more open, and like, hey, let's have a conversation about it. But for me, like if it was more of like a first time and I'm still trying to get to know you, or we're still trying to get to know each other in a sexual way, that's really more so where I have that conversation. But also it really depends on the person as well. If I know that you're already comfortable with talking about sex and having a sexual conversation, then yeah, I might just open it up. Like if I'm talking to someone else who is a sex coach, or is part of the industry or anything like that, then it'll be a lot easier for me to be like, do you like this or do you like that? Or
Mhm.
hey, I was talking to somebody about, they like slapping people in the face or whatever when they're having sex. What do you think about that? Like that, yes, I could definitely do, but I think it really depends on the situation. But if it's like we still trying to figure each other out and figure out like, hey, before we even have sex the first time, or this is the first time we even bring this up, that's the soft approach is
Mhm.
is more mine, because I just like to for people to feel comfortable, and I feel like I can get more information out of them instead of being like, hey, I want you to talk about this right now, just because of how um how the topic of sex in so many ways has been portrayed, like, oh, we don't talk about this, even though we talk about
Mm.
the shit all the time, like it's all through our media and shit like that, like we talk about it all the time and everybody wants to talk about it, but it's just the how,
Mhm.
how are you going to bring it up, how are you going to approach it? So but yeah, I like to ask regular people those questions and stuff too, not just the people I'm dating. So
Mhm. Well, so now this is going back early on in our conversation. Yeah, I'm ending the episode too, by the way. But for that part that I missed, because it never came back to me, of course, what I would do if Nicole is comfortable with it. Once this episode airs, we can do a live and talk about that specifically and see however that conversation branches off. A live on, want to say, Instagram and Facebook.
yeah, that's fine. I'm good with it.
Cool. So we're currently in 2023, and this is releasing in 2024. So this is going to be a commitment that I have to remind myself. So I need to edit early so I can get things set up properly,
Hmm.
because I know Nicole doesn't like last minute shit, and I don't like
I
putting
sure
people in
don't.
last minute situations. So I'm going to try to keep everything like in advance so that we can have this conversation for you all. So if you felt like, Vernon, how the fuck did you not go back to this subject? Follow me on Instagram, okay? Not Instagram. So so that you will be a part of this conversation. I will definitely like advertise it so people know that it's coming up. So yeah, because I feel like we do need to go back to that. And for any person who's listened to the podcast in the past and you're just like, Vernon, I need you to respond a little bit more on this subject and bring this motherfucker back on so that they can discuss that, let me know so we can set that up so y'all can get these answers, okay? Ask questions,
Absolutely.
engage, so that I will know what we're missing so we can give those answers for you. Because look, this is other people's lives and you're invested in their lives at this point. Because look, it's an hour episode that you spent an hour of your time learning about another motherfucker that's not you. And I appreciate you. So I don't mind giving that additional information whenever that comes up. Okay, cool. So with that being said, Nicole, do you have
Yes,
any
sir.
last words that you would like to share with the audience before I close this out?
Um, I would say find who you are, find who your sexual self is, and don't be afraid to be that person. Explore, regardless of what other people say. Other people's judgments and what they think of you do not matter, especially in this space, because guess what? You're not fucking them, and they're not in your bedroom unless you put them there. So,
That part.
excuse me. So learn who you are and be your authentic self with that. Other than that, if you are interested in booking me for any kind of sessions or are interested in me in having me on any of your platforms, your shows, or just have questions, make sure to hit me up on my website. That is melanatedvixen.com. That's VIXXEN.com. Hit me up on IG or TikTok and Facebook.
There we go. Y'all do it. Y'all do it. And make sure you follow so that you can be a part of that conversation whenever we do have it, people. I'm not going to forget about it. Cause look, when I go back and listen to every single episode, so it's past Vernon telling future Vernon what the fuck he needs to do so that, I like to honor past Vernon's wishes. If you've seen episode titles and you listen to the episode and it's right there, I do it. Okay. There we
Right.
go. So thank you so much, Nicole, for coming on to the podcast.
You're welcome. It's always a pleasure.
I love you.
I love you too. Bye,
So,
everybody.
to the audience out there, thank you all so much for listening to the Holiloquy podcast, where we step out and speak on sexuality. Just in case no one else told you this today, you are beautiful, you are worthy of happiness and joy, you are enough and then some. You may not live up to the expectations of others, but that is okay. You are only required to walk in your own shoes. May each day you live lead you towards abundance. With that said, love you all and see you next episode. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Holiloquy podcast, where we step out and speak on sexuality. You can subscribe to the podcast through your favorite podcasting app and find us on the web at www.holiloquy.com. That's www.heauxliloquy.com. Share the podcast with your friends and join the conversation.